Alan Watts was a British philosopher who helped bring Eastern religious and philosophical ideas to the West in the middle of the last century. Alan Watts wrote many books, such as The Way of Zen, and gave speeches throughout much of his career that now find much popularity on YouTube. What is so alluring about this man's ideas? Watts believed that true understanding of existence could only come from direct experience of the present moment. In the Zen tradition, understanding of reality and its nature is unexplainable by mere words or thinking. To quote Mr. Watts, Zen does not confuse spirituality with thinking about God while one is peeling potatoes. Zen spirituality is just to peel the potatoes. In essence, Watts' philosophy is a non-philosophy that aimed at peeling away at the unnecessaries of overthinking and being immersed in present action and being. This is not too far from the Abrahamic notion of trusting in God, which involves an acceptance of man's powerlessness in comparison to the power of divinity, and a surrender in the moment to this power or love. Watts' philosophy is particularly appealing to people who are overthinkers and those suffering with anxiety. The idea of letting go of thinking and being at one with the universe is one of great relief. This principle is not to be underestimated. It is essential for health and prosperity to relinquish overthinking and get in touch with the present moment. Within the peace of the present moment, we become aware of our true self, which lies beyond thought and ego. The easiest way to explain this is the process of listening to or playing music. One gets lost in the sounds and enters a state of feeling and ecstasy. For a moment, the thought loop is broken. Therefore, people also chase certain drugs, such as alcohol and marijuana, which can help conjure up such experiences of relief and divinity, albeit with major drawbacks, such as addiction and physical deterioration. We are all searching for this feeling of oneness and self-acceptance. Alan Watts' philosophy is one way of getting there. However, there is a dark side to Watts' philosophy. The Buddhist notion of letting go, normally through meditation, is in the pursuit of nirvana. Nirvana is the state in which you realize that you do not really exist as a separate self. Instead, you are a part of the whole universe, or God. This realization is fundamental to most religions. For Watts, this realization of oneness was evidence that life is not to be taken too seriously. He believed that we should stop trying to pretend that we are Alan Watts or John Smith, and live unbounded by cultural and social expectations. Nietzsche, the great German philosopher, referred to Buddhism as mentally cleansing, but he also criticized it for its denial of life. Nietzsche thought that the goal of nirvana and the idea of no self was nihilistic, because it went against his idea of the eternal yes and affirmation of this world. For nirvana is achieved by letting go of this life entirely. This is confirmed when we see Alan Watts' attitude towards self-improvement. I feel with the greater part of our lives, and if we are unduly absorbed in improving them, we may forget altogether to live them. If the whole point of Watts' philosophy is simply to enjoy the present moment and let go of attachment to any notion of self or desire, why set goals and why achieve? There is some truth to this idea. Why bother building rockets that go to Mars if humans do not enjoy this process of discovery? Why compete in a marathon if the pain is not met with a satisfaction and enjoyment? To quote from Alan Watts again, I am not saying that you ought to awaken from the ego illusion and help save the world from disaster. Why write this book? Why not sit back and let things take their course? As a human being, it is just my nature to enjoy and share philosophy. I do this in the same way that some birds are eagles and some doves. Some flowers are lilies and some roses. This is an appealing notion, the idea that we should let everything take its course and simply live for enjoyment. However, something is off about this philosophy. It denies all calls towards greatness and transcendence. It could be described as the beautiful truth of reality in this present moment, however, with nihilistic undertones. Alan Watts helps us to realise oneness with God, or the reality we live in. But we can use this knowledge in an eternally affirming way instead. If we are connected to a transcendental energy or love, it is our duty to create and to express ourselves, glorifying God with our good works. Instead of seeing our individual lives as meaningless in relationship to this realization of Nirvana, we can view them in an entirely opposite way. Perhaps because of our connection to the divine, life is completely and fundamentally meaningful, and should be lived with the lightness and unseriousness of Alan Watts, yet the seriousness of Julius Caesar. To take one route or the other could lead to our destruction.